Disney Cruise Line is known as one of the most premium of cruise brands due to its exceptional service, included amenities, and of course, its magical touches. But is taking a solo cruise on Disney, a line known for being kid oriented and very family focused, worth the very expensive price tag? In this solo cruise journal, I'm going to detail my cruise on the Disney Wish, from what I encountered to how I was made to feel as a solo traveler, as well as whether or not I would ever consider doing a Disney cruise solo again. My solo cruise journey began as I boarded my flight from Los Angeles International Airport to Orlando, Florida, for a red-eye flight 2 days before I was to board the ship. After a nice 4-hour nap, I awoke as we began our descent into Central Florida and arrived at the Orlando International Airport's new Terminal C. I've mentioned it before, but this new wing of the airport is not only strikingly beautiful, it is massive, especially when you roll in at 5:30 a.m. and basically have it all to yourself. I fetched an Uber to take me to Lake Buena Vista because you cannot take a Disney cruise without staying at the most magical place on Earth. That's right, the Walt Disney World Resort was my destination ahead of this cruise. The ride took just under 30 minutes, and we were soon arriving to my hotel property that I would call home until I needed to head to Port Canaveral. I chose to stay at Disney's Coronado Springs Resort. This property is a gorgeous Spanish-inspired hotel located in the heart of Disney property, near Disney's Animal Kingdom and Disney's Hollywood Studios theme parks. Known for its stunning architecture, rich theming, and a blend of modern luxury with some old world charm thrown in, this resort is definitely a more adult feeling hotel, geared primarily at business travelers, as it has some of the most convention space of any Disney World hotel. Because of that, there were a lot of amenities here that you'd probably not find in other Disney World resorts. Wide open public workspaces, USB charging ports at nearly every chair, lots of bars and lounge space with truly captivating lagoon views, and a lot of dedicated on site dining. Multiple sit down restaurants with varying menus, and of course, you can't exclude the major food court smacked right in the middle of all of it, with several storefronts and options for virtually every taste, as well as the sprawling waterfront space that connects the thousands of rooms around this major resort. You can also find the dig site Mayan themed pool at the back end of the property with themed water slides, hot tubs, and yeah, you got it. There's a pool bar here too. In fact, this property is so large that they have their own internal bus transit system with several stops at different sections. The newest addition to the property is the new Grand Destino Tower that all guests use as sort of a port of entry into the resort. This is where you traditionally find check-in, valet, and bell services. This is also where the newest rooms at the resort reside, called tower rooms. Grand Destino is the tower I would be staying in, and since I decided to add concierge club level services to my reservation at the suggestion of friends who have done that before, I was sent instructions to head to the 15th floor where the concierge lounge is located, and a cast member would check me in, bypassing any line they may have had downstairs. This lounge is called the Kronos Club and is an anomaly for this level of Disney resort, I came to find. Walt Disney World breaks their properties into 3 different categories. So you have the cheapest options being in the value category, the next level up being the moderate category, and then the most luxurious of hotels are in the deluxe category. I say anomaly because this property is still considered a moderate level resort, and yet it is the only of its kind to have a concierge lounge and to have all of the on-site amenities that it does. Inside the Kronos Lounge, they took my information and invited me to have a seat while they looked into my reservation reservation. I was handed a mimosa and was able to enjoy some hot breakfast items while I waited. The Kronos Club has a great view of the nearby Hollywood Studios theme park, and at night can also see Epcot's fireworks down the road. A concierge notified me that not only was my room available, I had been upgraded to a one-bedroom suite. At this point, I wasn't just overjoyed to have my room ready 8 hours early, which I did not expect for them to have. I was blown away by this upgrade. The suite was 1,100 square feet of space, had an entry area right up front where I felt like maybe they could have added something. I felt like there was something missing. There was such a big space, a stunning living room with large furniture pieces and a flat panel TV, with a dining space to one side of that. And then in front of it sat a work desk space. At the edge of the living room was a bar area complete with another TV, and that included a mini fridge right alongside of it, plus an island with included plates, silverware, mats, and more. Alongside the bar sat a Nespresso machine to enjoy, and of course behind that was a tucked-away guest restroom. If you wanted to entertain in this space, you could certainly do so. A barn door separated the large bedroom from the living area. Inside the bedroom was a queen bed with the ability to store things underneath. Really handy charging ports and power outlets on both sides of the bed built into the lamps. Tons of drawer space beneath the lamps, and on the interior wall under the safe, shelving units above that safe, and a ceiling to floor barn door style mirror. A large TV was on the wall in front of the bed, and with a mirror and some additional drawers alongside it. In front of that sat a fainting couch with a movable companion table right up alongside the tall window with views out the front of the Grand Destino Tower. And of course, the subtle Mickey wallpaper. In the master bath, a large lit mirror, complete with double sinks and all kinds of included grooming products, just sat waiting to be used. To the left of the main sinks sat a small vanity area. And of course, you can't forget the massive walk-in shower with a rainfall shower head in addition to a detachable hose handle, complete with shampoo. Got body wash in here as well as conditioner. Just outside of the shower was a separate walled restroom. All in all, this one-bedroom suite was incredible and far beyond what I expected. My original tower with club access room for one night cost a total of $538. I checked what this one bedroom with club access would have cost me, and it ran just over $1,400 per night. So grateful? Yeah, you could say that. Pretty darn grateful. After a day at the hotel and spending some quality time over at Epcot, cruise day had arrived. And in full transparency, this trip was to attend a wedding for a friend. The wedding was going to be held on board the Disney Wish. However, I would be almost fully solo during this cruise for a variety of reasons, which, of course, I will soon describe to you. But also staying at Disney's Coronado Springs were mutual wedding friends, and on cruise day, we decided it'd just be easier to share a rental car over to Port Canaveral together. From Walt Disney World property to the Disney Cruise Line terminal at Port Canaveral took just under an hour. Soon, we could see the classic red and white smokestacks of the Disney Wish off in the distance, calling us with all of its magic as we rolled into the terminal, where we were immediately met by very friendly porters. It was here where the mutual friends and I separated again and would not end up seeing one another until wedding day, as they went to park their rental car in the adjacent parking garage at a cost of $17 per day. The reason why the mutual friends and I did not wait together to check in, it's because check-in time that I selected online prior to the trip, or should I say one of the few left available, was 1 p.m. And their check-in time was immediately, as they were concierge stateroom guests. I was not. The Disney Cruise Line terminal is uniquely Disney, and I love that when a terminal has an identity to the fleet that it serves. Several lines for dedicated times were set up outside. However, they were almost never full of people waiting. After about 30 minutes of standing nearby as I awaited my time, and a very unfriendly employee, he approached me and he asked if I was waiting for my check-in time. And of course, I said I was. And he told me, you don't need to. The ship had already begun boarding, and the process was moving quite fast, and to just enter. That was a nice surprise. Thrilled to hear that. I entered the screening room where I waited with a few hundred people as one by one our documents were examined and verified, and we passed through the security checkpoints. On the other side was an escalator that took me up to the terminal boarding floor, which continued the heavy Disney theming throughout, and they were calling different boarding groups, so it never backed up or became too crowded, as I often experience in these terminals. In less than 10 minutes, my boarding group was called, and I walked the gangway to the Disney Wish. Something Disney does for every guest as they cross the threshold to their ships is broadcast to the Atrium their welcome of you by name, and they welcomed me in just such a way. I was wowed by this Atrium. It is hard not to be completely blown away by it, which they refer to as the Grand Hall here on the Disney Wish. It has a theatrical stage at one end and several stories looking down onto this area. The theme of this space takes after Cinderella, from the magic wishing star chandelier to her statue and glass slipper, all present here in this space. Knowing there was still more than an hour before staterooms would be ready, I decided I was going to head to the table service lunch on board that was being offered at that moment, according to the Disney Cruise app at least, which is where I found the Arendelle Dining Room, themed after, of course, the smash hit animated film series Frozen. Unfortunately, a crew member stopped me just shy of the dining room to inform me that the lunch had reached capacity and to find my way up to deck 11 for additional food options. So I did just that and had two options to choose from. One was the outdoor window storefronts for 5 different locations called Mickey and Friends Festival of Foods. And the not a buffet, Marceline Marketplace was the other, where they serve you from behind the glass. Marceline Marketplace is only open for breakfast or lunch with some really reduced hours. I found that quite odd, which is why it's a madhouse for most of those hours. I did both a breakfast and a lunch in this beautiful, not a buffet space, and it was always a flurry of activity. Named after Walt Disney's boyhood hometown of Marceline, Missouri. Yep, that's why it's got the name. The space of 10 food counters in this area of the ship is dedicated to food marketplaces from around the world. International specialties can be found here. You've got things like seafood and salads and plant-based items. Your baked goods, your American comfort foods can all be found here, with repeating stalls on both sides of the ship. With a pretty traditional breakfast, if I do say so myself. There's also a bar that sits at the front of Marceline where you can get some espresso too, if that's something that you'd be interested in. Food here, overall, above average in both presentation and taste. Just a shame it wasn't open for dinner. In fact, I know of some friends who were there for the wedding that never got a chance to visit because the hours were always so wonky between morning and afternoon. And then, of course, again, at night, they're not open. So something to keep in mind if you plan on taking a cruise on the Disney Wish. But back outside near the pool sat Mickey's Festival of Foods, complete with Sweet Minnie's ice cream to grab your sweet treats. You got Daisy's pizza pies for some made-to-order Italian grub. Goofy's Grill with everything from your hot dogs to your hamburgers, your chicken sandwiches, your nuggets, all those sorts of things. But two of the standout locations from Festival of Foods, for me at least, was Donald's Cantina and Mickey's Smokestack Barbecue. Now, Donald's Cantina is essentially an elevated Chipotle when it comes to options. In this space, more selections, custom made to order for your burrito bowls, your tacos, and all of your favorite Mexican items. Got very high marks from me. Just really impressed with the quality of ingredients, the presentation here. The food was outstanding. And then, of course, around the corner from this, Mickey's Smokestack Barbecue. filled with your finger-licking brisket, your pulled pork, your smoked sausage. You can also find chicken, collard greens, mac and cheese, sweet potato fries, coleslaw. It's all here. And I always tell people, don't forget to load up on your favorite sauces as well. I made it to the barbecue and cantina at least twice on this cruise. I overate purposely just to eat here more than once. They were outstanding, to say the least. Some of these locations are open during dinner hours, which is really the only meal alternative on the ship outside of the main dining rooms during the evening, which for a solo wasn't all that great. If I wanted to skip out on a formal dining room, I had very few included options in the evening. Speaking of, Disney Cruise Line does what they call rotational dining. Basically, you and your table mates travel from restaurant to restaurant each night, keeping your serving team with you, who always know what it is that you like or dislike. On the Disney Wish, there are 3 main dining rooms. On Deck 5, that Arendelle frozen dining adventure I mentioned a little bit earlier, it features Norwegian-inspired menu items that celebrate Anna and Kristoff's engagement. It's kind of a character dining experience with a show in the middle. Deck 4 is where you can find Worlds of Marvel, a restaurant that features a story about Ant-Man and the Wasp working with you to help save the day when something goes awry. Lots of Avengers make appearances, including one Spidey-rific hero in particular. The food here pays a nod to the homes of Marvel heroes like Wakanda for Black Panther and Sokovia in New York. A very creative menu inside of a very interactive restaurant. And I will say, casual conversation in a restaurant like this, I mean, it's like virtually impossible. So if it's not the blaring cinematic music, it's the video elements and storyline that are so loud and in your face. Don't get me wrong, it was fun. It really was, but it isn't going to be romantic if that's what you're looking for. And as a solo, you're looking for a quiet dinner alone. That's not happening here. You are going to be roped right into the storyline. But if you're looking for calm and romantic, you'll find it at the next restaurant on Deck 3 called 1923. It's an elegant Art Deco-inspired dining spot with 2 areas, one named after Walt Disney and one after his brother Roy Disney. The year 1923 is when the Walt Disney Company was founded, and this location really is reminiscent of like a 1920s Hollywood, filled with items that pay tribute to some of the most memorable of Disney animated features, and has the feeling of really like an upscale steakhouse. The menu features California cuisine, underscoring some of the region's Asian and South American influences. A great filet mignon can be found here, and they also had a classic hot fudge sundae worth indulging in. You bet I did, that's for sure. Of the 3 included main dining rooms, this was probably the most low-key, relaxing, and tasty of them all. I was placed in the later seating time of 8:15 p.m., with the earlier being 5:45 p.m. All tables are shared unless you have a party large enough to have its own. As a solo, I was sat with 2 best friends that were on a cruise together and a mother-daughter combo each night. Truth be told, I never saw anyone from the wedding party during this seating or at any of these restaurants, so I was presented a true solo experience. Heads up, if you don't like dining with strangers, you probably won't like this rotational dining concept. Outside of the included restaurants were 2 specialty restaurants you could pay extra for. Step inside Palo Steakhouse like I did and enjoy an antipasti like the burrata caprese, a salad like they had with the baby arugula, a main like the Angus beef tenderloin, and a dessert like the chocolate souffle with vanilla bean gelato and chocolate sauce. Service here, incredible, and the food and peaceful ambiance make for a very memorable meal. For $125, you can go on over to Enchante on Deck 12. That features gourmet menus created by Michelin-starred chefs, a 6-course dinner with ingredients from around the world. It's also open for brunch at $75. I was unable to make it fit into my schedule. Enchante, though, is something that I had friends on board. They did that. They gave it incredibly high marks, so that will be in the future for me. If you're looking to treat yourself, head on over to Inside Out Joyful Suites on Deck 11, paying tribute to the emotional characters from the film. This, of course, is a place where you can grab things like your fresh ice cream, your gelato, got some cupcakes in here, some chocolate memory orbs, and plenty of other sweets with a la carte pricing. Afternoon or evening snacks for a fee can be enjoyed down on Deck 5 at Keg and Compass, the nautical pub that is basically a sports bar. It's an a la carte menu of items like bangers and mash. You got buffalo wings, fish and chips, all that sort of a lineup can be found here. Of course, it wouldn't be a cruise without room service. Available 24 hours a day, most items on the menu are complimentary for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Continental breakfast is served from 5 a.m. to 9:30 a.m., and you can use your handy door hanger for that, which I always take advantage of. And it's quite a treat to have that coffee and your pastries on the balcony as you wake up with the sunrise, as I do daily whenever I'm on a cruise. And while there are no drink packages on Disney Cruise Line, you do have all of the typical alcoholic beverages to choose from and pay for a la carte in this environment. On the flip side of that, however, soda on Disney is 100% included, and I 100% loved it, along with your tea, coffee, lemonade, that sort of a thing. Back on embarkation day, our rooms were now ready after the hallways swelled with interested guests waiting for doors to be opened. Once they were, I headed through the hallway to my stateroom 7082, a veranda stateroom, as they call it. Upon entering the room, you will find a separate restroom immediately to your left, which is pretty darn handy, especially if you are sharing this space with a larger family, as I would assume most on a Disney cruise would probably be traveling with. Just beyond that is a separate shower area with a removable wash handle, a full shower door, not a curtain, that's right, and of course shampoo, conditioner, and body wash, along with this being a tub. So it looks like they've thought of both adults and kids. Again, it's Disney, you'll see these touches everywhere. The backlit mirror and sink area with accompanying towels and lotion were also a very nice touch. Outside the bathroom area, on the other wall, are your life jackets and clothes hanging space, complete with Disney Cruise Line robes. Down the line from there, a closed cabinet style shelving unit with 6 different shelves to use, down to a small in-room safe. And beyond that, another clothes hanging space with a top shelf option as well. In the bedroom area, you have multiple charging ports and a power outlet right where they belong, alongside the bed and nightstand with a reading lamp and dimmer option, including a drawer. Above the Mickey Wish throw blanket at the foot of the bed is an enchanting animated scene, a portrait from the Cinderella feature film just above that headboard. A flat screen TV packed full of Disney animated and live action films is on the wall directly in front of the bed. And on the opposite side of the bed, another lamp with some whimsical Mickey details, as well as a dimmer reading light, more charging and power outlets, and yet another drawer for your valuables. A curtain can be drawn to section off the bedroom from the living space, which also turns into a bedroom, with a large couch that can be made into a bed and a movable companion table under yet another piece of that Cinderella artwork. Directly across from the couch on the TV wall side sit several cubbies for item storage, with included tissue box and phone, a full desk, and under that, a can for trash and a small stump seat if you care to pull it out for use. Having sailed on Disney Cruise Line before, I am a part of what they call their Castaway Club, and yeah, that's known as their loyalty program. So this cruise came with a keepsake tote bag as well as a Disney Cruise Line lanyard. Inside the desk drawer were complimentary postcards and stationery, which I thought was a very thoughtful extra to provide. The breakfast door tags alongside that for your order, and of course, a health and safety sheet for reference. Above the desk sits a large backlit mirror for fussing over your beauty in if you need it. Beneath the mirror sits controls for lighting in the room and for lighting on your balcony. To the side of the mirror, 3 more long store shelves complete with my double orders of water to keep me hydrated. On the desk, 4 drinking glasses for the room. And to the side of that, built into the mirror, is a charging port haven. And just in front of that, a bottle of the Blue Bubbly with 2 champagne glasses. Even though it was my room only, it was still nice to have some extras on hand for sure. Beneath the desk is also another drawer, a cleverly disguised mini fridge for your convenience with some deep storing slot options in here, and another storage area next to the fridge. And above it, of course, is your hair dryer. This is considered a deluxe ocean view stateroom, similar to that of, say, a mini suite if you were on board Princess Cruise Line. By the way, to open your balcony door, the release lock is high up, which feels like a purposeful design element in order to keep balcony access out of the hands of any little ones who might be in the room. At about 246 square feet in total, and that includes this spacious balcony. The stateroom sits on one of the protruding design curves near the center of the ship, so it gave me a bit of a deeper balcony at an angle that most standard balconies probably just wouldn't have. Nothing beyond standard chairs out here, and a small table for furniture sits between the 2 chairs. All in all, the room itself was sparkling clean. It smelled great and was more than enough space for little old me. Something that popped up on the Disney Cruise app on my phone was an alert that I needed to attend a mandatory guest assembly drill. And yes, Disney Cruise Line has returned to doing their muster drill in person after allowing for a much more convenient digital experience during the pandemic era. Unfortunately, now Disney calls for thousands of passengers to collectively go to their assigned lifeboat station and proceed to stand in order from room to room, and I kid you not, from tallest to smallest. I'm all for safety and rarely criticize a muster process because they absolutely need to happen. I think we all know that. But this process went on for over half an hour, since the crew would not begin training until a certain quota of passengers arrived. After the training, every single person on deck for that training turned and headed towards the elevators, creating an even longer wait just to get out of the area. All in all, the muster process took about 47 minutes from start to dismissal. When I asked why we were standing the way that we were, the crew member said, for safety, should there be an emergency. And I said, respectfully, if this ship is going down, not one of these people will be lining up in this fashion. I'm sorry to break it to you. From the muster drill up to the Lido deck I went with what felt like pretty much everyone else on board for what would be the most spectacular and fun sail away party I may have ever attended. No twerking to top 40 hits here. No. In fact, this full-fledged production, it started with a welcome from the fairy godmother as she helped to bring forth Mickey, Minnie, Donald, Daisy, Pluto, and Goofy, which then led to even more of their royal superstar friends who would join them until finally everyone assembled for a countdown to set sail. And you heard that right. On the Disney Wish, the horn beeps to the tune of When You Wish Upon a Star. With that, our sail away from Port Canaveral had begun, and we said goodbye to Florida as we charted course to the Bahamas and Disney's coveted private island, Castaway Key. Over the next few days, I would explore the Disney Wish and find some places I would end up spending a good chunk of my time in. First off, some of the lounges on the ship are ultra-themed adult funhouses. If you are a Star Wars fan, you are going to fall in love with the Hyperspace Lounge on Deck 3. Just like I did. Filled with Star Wars references, trinkets, design elements, and a window to the galaxy. This area can become heavily impacted at night and even have a line at times, but it's an adult-only space, leaving all of this fun to the kids at heart, I guess we could say. Across from that is the Princess and the Frog themed The Bayou. This space was like sitting in an elegant grove with an occasional frog thrown in. Live music took the stage here most nights as well. Alongside those lounges is another. Nightingales, inspired by Cinderella's rendition of Sing Sweet Nightingale, is where you can get fine wines and handcrafted cocktails, which also features a piano player by night. Up on deck 5, Triton Lounge is the place for daily trivia and nightly karaoke, so swing by here and sing to your heart's content. This is also where you can find the 2-level Luna stage, a performance venue and lounge that turns into a space for adults at night. With live entertainment and a full bar at the back of this location, it is a great place to have some competitive fun with your fellow passengers, like Villains Game Night, for example. On deck 4, you can get a shave or a haircut during the day, or return to this location at night as Hook's Barbery turns into a speakeasy with expertly trained bartenders who craft handmade old-fashioned cocktails for you. While a reservation is required for barber services during the day, anyone can walk into the speakeasy and grab a chair at night and be entertained as well as enjoy a nice libation. And in the mornings, I would find my way to the Wishing Star Cafe on Deck 4 for all of my added fee espresso and specialty coffee items, complete once again with a little extra touch of that Disney magic to go with it. What I really enjoy about all of the bars and lounges on the Disney Wish is that they have each dedicated charging ports where you sit, and that is so helpful when you are going to and from places, trying to relax and not have to worry about losing battery life on your phone. Speaking of, the Disney Cruise Line app everyone uses on board, complete with the day's activities and dining, well, of course, that's free to use. However, if you want internet while at sea, it will cost you. Select the Stay Connected package that includes social media apps for $18 per day, the Basic Surf package, which adds email, internet access, and voice calls to the list for $28 per day, or Premium Surf Package for $42 per day, or $34 per day for the entire voyage, where you can stream short videos, music, and even do video calling. I went with the Basic Surf, and it worked just fine for what I needed, with speeds that didn't leave me pulling my hair out. It worked out fine. Somewhere else I found my solo self on occasion was at one of the 2 state-of-the-art movie theaters in the Wonderland and Neverland cinemas on Deck 4. These theaters showcase first-run movies and a few classic films back-to-back all day long for you to enjoy. Speaking of the theater, Broadway-style Disney original production shows can be found in the Walt Disney Theater on Deck 3. Unfortunately, I was unable to record anything in the theater, but do not miss Aladdin, a musical spectacular, or Disney Sees the Adventure Show. Wholesome Disney fun for kids, and again, the kids at heart. Another place you can catch first-run movies and favorite animated hits is up on the Lido deck, where there happen to also be several small pools and sort of a stadium-style leveling that I guess gives you a good view of the jumbo outdoor screen and stage. But each one of these, with different character names to represent them, are all just barely deep enough to stand in, and were definitely not large enough for passengers to comfortably swim in if they wanted. It isn't lost on me that, very young children are in these pools often, but there isn't one large general pool anywhere with depth to enjoy or for more than a handful of people to be in before it seems to get really uncomfortable. The layout of these pools and the way in which they were created sort of stumps me, and at no time did any of them look comfortable or uncrowded enough to really enjoy unless it was on a port day, in which case they close down most of them and only leave a few available. I will let you in on one secret, though. The single pool with the most potential in terms of size and depth is mostly hidden away all the way at the front of the ship on Deck 14, and that is the Chip and Dale's pool. If you need a little more thrill, I understand, and you can find that thrill on the Aqua Mouse water slide, something Disney calls the first ever Disney attraction at sea. While the 2-seater vehicle moved along swiftly, there are a few spots where some screens try and tell a story of the adventure that you're on, but you're moving so quick it doesn't really feel like it matters all that much. But it is fun nonetheless. The wait for this one consistently 40 plus minutes on sea days. But again, those port days saw walk on opportunities more often than not. If you haven't asked yourself the question yet, but what about all the kids already? I, of course, want to address that. This cruise line, more than any other, is clearly designed with kids in mind over all else. So going into this, I knew I would be surrounded by children at every turn and probably in every space. However, that isn't to say that there were not plenty of times I was surprised by the lack of children in an area. In fact, I was often taken aback by just how many more adults I witnessed having fun in spaces than I did the kids. And I think much of that is due to Disney Cruise Line's award-winning kids clubs, where truly some of these areas, they look so amazing, it makes me jealous that they're for children only. And of course, you have your adults-only areas of the ship too, where I spent some of my time, and those spaces were the epitome of relaxation and quiet, especially the Deck 13 Adults Only Cove Cafe that was always so mellow, so empty, a great place to grab a coffee. And the Adults Only Quiet Cove Pool, which on sea days is quite busy. But just take a look at this port day piece. You just can't beat it. The Adults Only Bar is also just steps away from this too. Elsewhere on this deck are first come, first serve adult loungers and what they call the Quiet Cove Whirlpool. But directly behind the wall of this hot tub is a show scene for the Aqua Mouse water slide. And about every 40 seconds or so, Mickey and Minnie can be heard cheering wildly. So I'm not sure how well thought out this placement was. And calling it the Quiet Cove Whirlpool, well, it made me laugh a little bit. This is one ship where there is entertainment at every turn all day long, and I really like that. It evens out the crowds, it pushes people to all corners of the vessel, so no one place in particular feels too crowded. Often, you are always just a few yards away from one of your favorite Disney characters. Something else the Disney Wish does during days at sea to help absorb the crowds is they take their big flex space on Deck 12 called the Hero Zone and they set up included massive obstacle courses themed to The Incredibles. And they call it the Incredi Games, where families and siblings do their best to overcome these obstacles in order to walk away with really just bragging rights. I also saw that if you don't have a family member or a companion to compete against, they will assemble a line of solos right here to compete against each other, if that's something that you'd be willing to do. And if you are looking to conquer fitness obstacles on your own, you are in luck. Head on down to Deck 5, where you can take advantage of the included Senses Fitness Center and hop on a bike or a treadmill with an ocean view, or grab some free weights if that is more your style. They also do trainer-led fitness classes at Senses as well. If obstacles are out of the question and you just want to relax, you can indulge in an extra cost trip to Senses Spa, also here on Deck 5. Choose from any number of massage treatments or buy a pass to the Rainforest Room, which includes a sauna, steam rooms, dry chambers, ice lounger, and heated ergonomic loungers with a beautiful sun deck and outdoor space dedicated just to you. Our first port on this trip was Nassau, Bahamas. This is the mega port that can accommodate multiple ships at a time. It's often one of the busiest ports in the world because of that. I've been blessed to be here several times now, and I have done private island beach breaks, even swimming with the pig type excursions here before. But this time around, the Nassau day was the day I would be meeting up with my friends for the first time this cruise. And I am not kidding. I did not see anyone until the day of the wedding when we all came together. That's just how big this ship is. The wedding was facilitated by Disney Cruise Line and was an event that was held right smack in the middle of the Grand Hall Atrium, also known as the center of the ship, where anyone still on board would end up stopping off to watch. The ceremony went off without a hitch, and my buddy got married to his princess in a way that didn't leave a dry eye in our wedding party crowd or in the crowds watching from above. It was the first time I have been on a cruise for someone's wedding, and I quite liked the no-stress fun of it all. Now, ask the bride and groom, and they'll probably tell you the exact opposite, but I had a blast, and the two of them are now living happily ever after. That night was the Disney Wishes Pirates in the Caribbean party on the Lido deck, and the cruise line provides you a bandana and an eye patch to wear. However, families really got into the pirate attire on this night, and it made the event that much more celebratory. A spectacle of a show takes place where Mickey and his pals are eventually overcome by real pirates in the form of Captain Hook and Mr. Smee, only for Mickey and the gang to ask us to help them in taking back their ship, of course, which I'm relieved to say we were able to do. This was also a very popular night because the celebration culminates in a thrilling fireworks show at sea, complete with a full soundtrack to accompany it. There's nothing like a Disney cruise fireworks show in the middle of the ocean. On our next port day, I woke with the sunrise and my coffee and treats as ideal weather conditions allowed us to sail smoothly into Disney's private island, Castaway Key. These postcard perfect turquoise waters are the thing of Bahamian paradise. I couldn't wait to see this private island up close and personal. I had heard through a friend who takes a lot more Disney cruises than I do that there is typically a rush off the ship for the first 2 hours that the gangway is open, and that I should wait until later in the day to go ashore so I could enjoy the ship mostly to myself. And then when I went ashore, most people would be leaving, allowing me to enjoy most of Castaway Key without crowds. He was absolutely right, and I did relax on this day that we docked just after 9 a.m., choosing not to go ashore until almost 1 p.m., especially since our all aboard time wouldn't be until 5:15 p.m. Just as my friend mentioned, as I was getting onto Castaway Key, throngs of people were returning to the ship. Complimentary trams run from the ship to the beaches and shops and dining locations. I waited only a few minutes before mine arrived and whisked me on over on a mostly empty tram to the center of the action. Lunch had just wrapped up at Cookie's Barbecue on Castaway Key, which I was completely fine with. I chose to dine on the ship this day instead of partaking in the typical burgers, chicken, and hot dogs served on the sand here. There were hundreds of open lounge chairs as I approached, and everything just felt so warm and breezy and beautiful. The groom told me he and his wife's family had sprung for a full cabana, and even though several dozen people made it to this wedding at sea, they were only able to invite a few to the cabana as they come stocked with drinks and have dedicated servers. While I have no idea if the Disney Wish gave a discount in this situation since they paid to have their wedding on board or not, I do know these cabanas retail for nearly $800 for up to 6 guests, and then there is an extra charge per person up to 10. This was the only thing I did not pay for out of pocket myself on this cruise, and I have to say the Cabana experience, it was exceptional, so I was very grateful to have been invited. After hanging out for a little while and buying a Castaway Key hat at one of the beachside shops, because they are only available on the island, FYI, they're not available on the ship, I hopped a Cabana golf cart ride back to the Disney Wish. This island has all kinds of activities like snorkeling, bike rentals, deep sea fishing, sea kayaks, and you can even feed the stingrays here for an additional charge, of course. Upon returning to the ship, I hopped in the shower and when I came out, heard the Cinderella horn going off, which of course meant it was time to pull away. I was touched to look out off my balcony and see the Castaway Key crew all lined up with giant Mickey hands waving goodbye to us as we pushed back, and then they took a well-deserved bow. And this is really where Disney Cruise Line shines. The world-renowned personal service that was once across all Disney properties is now majority held in the fleet of its cruise ships, with cast members who are some of the most endearing, kind-hearted, and upbeat employees I have ever had the pleasure of knowing. They made this cruise experience sparkle. They bent over backwards to accommodate anything I needed. Goodness, my room steward was so immediately invested in me and my story, and was psyched for me as a solo on board, even applauding my willingness at one point to try a Disney cruise by myself and for being inspired to explore and travel solo in general. As the final night rolled around, I found myself out and about enjoying all of the live entertainment and hugging my Disney character friends one last time as they said goodbye and thanks for such a fun voyage. And suddenly I noticed families and couples sitting and laying down on the grand hall carpet at the base of the atrium, staring up at the ceiling. Being at the top of the atrium myself, I was surprised to catch a glimpse of the time on my phone as it was the stroke of midnight, when all of a sudden the Grand Hall came to life one last time. The next morning, we were back in Port Canaveral, and express walk-off disembark was what I would be doing since I had all of my luggage on my person. Just after 7 a.m., they were ready for me, and my walk-off was both seamless and smooth. The Disney Wish, while grand and still new, was a very oddly laid out ship. Lots of dead ends and bizarre cutovers from staircases to elevators. And on that note, elevators on some floors only go to certain levels and not always to where you need them to go. I never quite figured out their system or how to tell if you were about to waste your time getting on one of those elevators. So you sometimes couldn't do what you needed to do. And I saw plenty of frustrated people dealing with the same thing. The food overall was outstanding, minus the odd hours for Marceline Marketplace. And while I always appreciate a single table option at dinner, I never mind meeting new people, as I was sort of forced into as part of rotational dining in this atmosphere. In fact, on the one night I chose to do the upcharge meal at Palo, my regular server for rotational dining ended up tracking me down the next day just to make sure everything was okay and asked if there was anything he could do to lure me back to the traditional dining rooms. I thought that spoke volumes of their attention to detail and their care for your experience on this ship. As mentioned, the pools are just strangely set up and sadly were closed or being cleaned most of the time. Not a big deal for me, but it was a big deal for all of the floaty wearing kiddos who just wanted to splash around. The ship itself seems very opulent, like a castle at sea, very regal with rich colors and designs that remind you that you aren't in Kansas anymore. It felt, even though I was getting up with the sun and not going to bed until after midnight each day, I still was unable to do and see everything that was available to me. I suppose that is the problem on such a quick 3-day cruise. You just run out of time to do it all. As a solo on a predominantly kid-focused and family-heavy ship, I did not feel out of place like I thought I might. No weird stares or concerned parent expressions. Everyone was so consumed with trying to make the most of their time, they couldn't care less what I had going on. And unlike other cruises that sort of focus on the drink packages that don't exist here, the Disney Wish was a very comfortable, very safe, and coherent passenger mix where everyone just seemed happy to be there. And Mickey and the gang were the focus of their energy. This was one cruise where I did not notice a solo meetup on the schedule as I do on pretty much every other line, however. Having said that, this was the most expensive cruise I have ever taken when it came to duration. This 3-day Disney Wish cruise to the Bahamas and Castaway Key clocked in at $3,310 with taxes and fees. This is just base fare with gratuities, not including Wi-Fi, specialty dining, or anything else I added on. That works out to be just over $1,000 per day for a 3-day cruise. So while I enjoyed myself and will always be honored to have witnessed my friend get married, $1,000 per day is something I would rather spend on a dedicated luxury cruise line experience rather than a mass market premium brand like Disney, because the value per dollar on a luxury brand is often far greater. Plus, I look at what I paid for this 3-day and thought I could have potentially taken 2 7-day cruises for the same price on other lines. Of course, it's all in what you want, and I have glowing praise for the Disney Wish crew, the food, the rooms, the entertainment. Critical marks, of course, for how they handle muster and the overall layout of the ship being clunky and disconjointed, but it is a cruise line that I think you should try at least once. Have you ever sailed on Disney Cruise Line before? Was it worth the high price tag for you, or would you rather spend that money for a longer journey elsewhere? I'd love to hear from you in the comments. And for my week-long solo getaway to Mexico on the new Carnival Forense, along with the unexplainable bumps in the night that even their crew couldn't explain, check out the video on the right.